Hello everybody, welcome back to Mining Modern. I'm Corbin Hostler and this is Obligator Eldrazi. This is, I don't know if I'll say the most underplayed Eldrazi in Modern. We've seen a lot of Eldrazi in Modern, but this card is very good. It's a 3/1 haste for 3 that is an Eldrazi, but it also, it turns out, for 2 more mana can steal a creature from an opponent, and to be honest, it's a pretty powerful ability. So I'm very happy to play this. This is a deck that had a showing at the Pro Tour. I won't say it did great, but it put up a pretty reasonable result for somebody in Constructed, and just red-green Eldrazi with Obligator being, really the standout of the deck. So big fan of this one. I know we've seen a lot of Eldrazi in Modern, but hey, you know what? If you see a new flavor, a new fun card, we'll give it a shot. Might not have it in our hand for much longer, but actually I bet our opponent takes the Mind Stone here. Taking the Mind Stone would certainly make the most sense with this Inquisition. Which is too bad. I wanted to curve out with this hand. Turn 3 Obligator, I guess it's a turn 5 Inbringer currently. Alright, so as expected, they did take the Mind Stone. Unfortunately, we do not have anything to play right now. We just drew another land. But we can play Obligator next turn, although I don't know that I'll be wanting to do that. Is our opponent just on some sort of rock deck here? They're prototypical green-black deck. Ancient Surian's a pretty good draw for us there. Alright, let's see what we can get. Whew, those are some cards. So, it's obviously very tempting to take the Reality Smasher, but we're so far away from playing it, I actually think I just want the Reshaper here. Reshaper gives us the most value at grinding out everything our opponent is doing, which is obviously the kind of game this is going to be. It's unfortunate we didn't draw that Stirring's last turn so we could have the Reshaper this turn, but and it's looking like a game where I will want to Obligator our opponent, so for an extra bit of punch here. Let's see, hopefully they don't play Liliana. That would be the one I'd be concerned about. Yep. Worst card for them to play against us, Liliana? They've got it. That's how it goes. Alright, so as much as I want this Inbringer here, something tells me we will not be having the mana to cast it. So just going to pitch it. Play Reshaper, which puts our opponent in a bit of an awkward position because the turn after that, we will have the threat of an Obligator on one of their creatures to then swing in at the Liliana. We did, unfortunately, have to grow the Tarmogoyf to a 4/5, but such is life. We've got plenty of life, so we're all right. All right, we've drawn a Karplusan Force. So I'm going to play this and name Eldrazi. Could name Lorgoyf. It is an option that Magic Online gives me. So it's nice in this. We could play the Obligator here, but we don't have enough mana to seal anything, and we could only poke Liliana down to 1, which, while powerful, is a lot less worse than actually getting the obligation ability out of it. And also having Reshaper is pretty bad for our opponent, right? It either draws us a card at some point here. It makes the sort of your typical play you would expect in this situation is Liliana minuses. Makes us sacrifice a creature, they still have a Tarmogoyf, and we're in a lot of trouble. But you know what? This deck has some ways to deal with it. Reshaper is really good protection against that because it gives you something, whether it's a card or a permanent to play. And then Obligator to steal this Tarmogoyf next turn is going to be big game. Unfortunately, we won't get to play that Inbringer, and I think there's 2 in the deck, so we do have access to more eventually, but... Oh, wow, they are going to make a sacrifice here, so, I mean, that makes sense. It's still probably the best value play for them. Well, let's see what we can get here. Huh. I would like to put Kessig Wolfrun into play. Obviously would have preferred a creature, but not going to complain about getting something into play here. Dark Confidant. All right. Ancient Surians is pretty good here. And I believe I can play because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. So I can actually Stirrings first here, and there's no downside to that. Guess we hit a Reality Smasher or something. And we hit a Thought-Knots here. Well, okay. All right, so the nice thing here is we don't play this land. Well, I guess we're going to kill Liliana anyways. So let's just go ahead and do it. We will steal the Dark Confidant because I don't want my opponent to. All right, I would like to use this ability. Yes, please. What I don't want to happen is for my opponent to, we take his Tarmogoyf, we untap it, and then he blocks it with Dark Confidant and has something. I don't even know what they could have here. Fatal Push doesn't kill this, but something to kill our Obligator. In fact, is there anything it could be for 1 mana here? Dark Blast. I don't want to mess around here. We just got to kill Liliana. The problem for us, of course, is that our opponent has a Dark Confidant and is going to untap with it. And if I was more confident, I would send the Dark Confidant at them, but it would result in 2. But I'm just not quite confident enough there. So hopefully we get to play this Thought-Knots here. Tarmogoyf is getting quite large, but the other nice part about having this Kessig Wolf Run in play is that Kessig Wolf Run allows us to trade up with the Tarmogoyf, or at the very least threaten to attack for a lot of damage. And we will know if the coast is clear after we play Thought-Knots here next turn. So I don't know. I wouldn't say we're in the best. Oh my gosh, that was a great draw for our opponent. Well, now we need to top deck our way out of this one. We're down to 5. I'll float it out a little hard here. That's a pretty good draw. I'm not going to complain about that one at all. All right, so we can pump for 1 right now. Not that that is particularly relevant. But we have a double block for the Tarmogoyf. All of this is predicated on our opponent having nothing, and they drew another Dark Confidant, which is fine, but not the most insane. Matter Reshaper is the kind of card that could get us back into it, though. This is a good game here. Our opponent could also play Lingering Souls. That would be real good against us. It's weird because I'm sure we're playing against Reduke's top 8 Abzan list here. Obligator is very good against, the Tarmogoyf hands or whatever, and very bad against the Lingering Souls hands. The fact my opponent's tanking a little bit means we might actually be able to line up this double block on Goyf. And I'm most certainly priced into taking it. Yeah. They are correct that this is a free attack with the Confidant. But also nice to know we don't have to worry about... And Reduke's list had no Path to Exiles, if I remember right. Yeah, all right. Looks like we did it. So let's see what we can get off this Reshaper here. Well, let's put that one into play. Our opponent has a lot of cards still. And that's a pretty good one. And we're getting very close to being dead. Our opponent is on, oh my god, yeah. Our opponent is on 4 lands and good stuff, and we're on 1,000,000 lands. So, and now we have something else that will not save us. All right, well, that's pretty unfortunate. We flooded out a bit hard there, but we'll see what we can do here. I think this Engineered Explosives on 2 is going to be very good in this matchup, as is the Relic of Progenitus. So, overall, I think we want to get rid of a couple Obligators. And Lightning Bolts are fine. On the play, I don't hate having an Endbringer in here. Tracker could be pretty good as well. The problem is a lot of our cards are good. Unfortunately, Obligator might be the worst card, but I don't want to cut it because it helps kill Liliana. We'll keep 1 in here. I think I'll cut an Explosives. That's the most mana intensive of the things, and we can only do it for 2. And we have 4 lightning bolts and 2 dismembers already. And the Overworld Tracker, which in some ways is, you know, a 7th way to deal with the problematic 2-drops. Yeah, this matchup, I don't know if it's good or bad for us. It seems reasonable. It's just basically depending on what threat we can stick, and our opponent had the Thought Seize there for that Thought Knot last game. Like, it might have been a little different if we'd curved that Thought Knot into that Reshaper and had lined up the blocks on the Tarmogoyf. I'm definitely keeping this hand. This seems pretty reasonable. Yeah, we may as well do a point to ourselves here in Stirrings. So we have access to 1, 2, 3, 4 mana as it is. There's no reason not to just take the Relic here. It at least makes it a little difficult for our opponent if they lead with discard. Wow, and they're not. Okay, so that's probably pretty good for us. And there is a land, fortunately. Yeah, all right. Turn 2 Reshaper. That's the kind of stuff we want, and we get to take our next turn with Lightning Bolt and Relic of Progenitus, and then hopefully curve out into Endbringer eventually here. Reshaper is just so good. And, I mean, it's basically at its best in literally this matchup. You know, the black-green rock decks that just want to grind you out. Now, what is this? They shocked themselves on the end step. Oh, so they could Fatal Push this? Okay, whatever. And there you go. We dealt 3. This turn 2 Mana Reshaper dealt 3 damage to our opponent and 2 for 1 to them. So pretty good overall. Now the problem we are going to face is that let's see what our opponent has here. A Dark Confidant. Okay, that's fine. Wow, that's a pretty nice one. I'm not going to play it this turn because I need all this mana, but let's go ahead and start by, well, yeah, we get to do all 3 of these things here. It's Ancient Stirrings. I guess I'll take a Thought Knots here. Grove. We do have to give our opponent a life. However, I would say it is worth it to get rid of Dark Confidant. And we get to play Relic of Progenitus. So, all in all, not a bad turn. Now, we are tapped out, so our Relic isn't going to... oh, wow, and our opponent does not have a Liliana this turn, so that's pretty good for us. We do have another Dark Confidant. All right, so I could slam Endbringer here. However, I think that would be a mistake, given that if our opponent has a Liliana, it's very bad for us. So instead, I'm just going to play Thought Knots here. Ooh, those are... Oh, they have Liliana. It's just not Liliana we care about. Take the Maelstrom Pulse, then. Well, there's good and bad news here. The good news is that... Yeah, I mean, the good news is we have a Thought Knot. Our opponent has cards that don't immediately kill us. Bad news is they have Dark Confidant. Ooh, a 4? What was it? Oh, a Damnation, huh? Well, okay, then. That means they don't have a land unless they drew it. Which they did. So this is now actually kind of awkward because... yeah, I mean, it's still not a perfect situation for our opponent. But overall, we do need to draw something. This is not a great spot for us. That's a pretty good one to draw. So we're going to get Damnation to next turn. The question is, what do we want after our opponent casts Damnation? Because I could play the Endbringer here. I could not kill Liliana. I could play Endbringer. It gets Damnation, and then we Reality Smasher to kill Liliana. Then our opponent gets to follow up with another Liliana and a Scavenging Ooze. I think we're better off if we smash Liliana to death here, because that means that our opponent doesn't get to have a Planeswalker when they Damnation. which I think is important. And then we get to untap, play Endbringer into an opponent who has, theoretically in hand at least no way to kill it, and hopefully Endbringer can grind out the game for us. We also have the Relic of Progenitus to answer the, to an extent anyways, answer the Scavenging Ooze in our opponent's hand here. They get to take another draw here with Confidant, and it was a land, so okay. Well, basically we needed to dodge just a couple draw steps there, and we need this Endbringer to be good. Drawing the Reality Smasher was certainly nice. Yep. We're putting a lot of eggs in this Endbringer basket, though. All right, there's the Damnation as expected, and the terrible part here is our opponent gets to draw off Thought Knot, so I would not say that we're in the clear. Well, you know what? That's not the worst draw on the deck. That's for sure. I think I'm going to go ahead and... So this is going to cost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I may as well pop this. Yeah, Reshaper is a nice one as well. All right, well, we're going to find out if this Endbringer is good or not. Our opponent has 5 cards in hand, and we know about 2 of them. We know a Liliana and a Scavenging Ooze, so it's 3 unknowns we have to worry about. However, if we get an untap with Endbringer, I'd say we're in a good spot. I'll probably just use it to draw cards, to be honest, since we can cast pretty much anything we draw. And Reshaper is a nice one to have in hand as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of bad things that could happen to us here. I mean, our opponent could have Liliana the Veil. That would be the worst, although I imagine they would have slammed it by now. They could have Dismember. I don't know if they play Dismember or not, but I certainly assume Liliana the Veil would have been slammed onto the table. So hopefully we're going to get a chance to untap with the Endbringer here. They could also just play Liliana, tick it up, play Scavenging Ooze, and try to rebuild from there. That's probably the worst option for them, because then we're going to do quite a bit with our Endbringer. We're going to attack the Liliana. We get to draw cards on their turn. Fulminator Mage, huh? Okay. Fulminator Mage plus Scavenging Ooze, I suppose. Yeah. That's a reasonable line, I guess. It's not the worst I've ever seen. Ancient Stirrings was a very good draw. Okay. I think I'm willing to deal myself damage over giving them life at this point. Eldrazi Obligator. Yes, please. So again, we have options here, and I have access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. So it is enough to play both of these, but not get value. Our opponent wants to block, obviously, and then sacrifice. And I think I'm just fine with that. I definitely think we should be putting pressure on here rather than drawing a card. We'll get to untap it on their turn and draw a card. It also sets up, having Reshaper in play along with Endbringer, along with Obligator next turn might be enough to crack in there for lethal. All right, well, let's get the Reshaper down. Oh, we're still in combat. Sure, our creature has been blocked. Yeah, Reshaper definitely very good in this spot. I also need to do this before our opponent untaps so they can't eat their Fulminator Mage for a counter. All right, playing not terribly here for once. That's the sort of thing I mess up all the time when I'm recording, because you just don't think about it while you're talking through the game. But caught it that time around, and now we even have protection from Liliana of the Veil built in here. So this is looking like a decent spot. We have our 2 colorless mana to draw a card at the end of the turn. We can pop the Relic if we need to. And we have an Obligator that might just take our opponent out. Tracker, huh? Okay. Tracker is good, and you're going to get the value out of your landfall here. And let's see what our opponent wants to do with the rest of their turn. Tarmogoyf, huh? That was a pretty good turn for our opponent, to be honest. I mean, it's a baby Tarmogoyf, but... All right, let's go ahead and draw a card. Drew a land. And drew a lightning bolt. All right. Well then, we have options again. This is actually, we could bolt a Tarmogoyf here. Not going to do that though. I do think I will just bolt the Tireless Tracker. I think it's the scariest one for us. It's also possible maybe I should have. Maybe I should have obligated the Tracker, then played that land. All right, so I think we just attack with the... Question is if I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could Obligator the Tarmogoyf, attack with the team. That's pretty good. It also leaves up the ability, yeah, and this gets the value out of the... Yeah, this gets value out of the Tarmogoyf before the Tarmogoyf gets shrunk by our relic here. And our opponent can't even go to eat this because we can just tap the relic in response. Oh no. You've got to be kidding me. This is not an Eldrazi ability? Really, game? Okay. Well, I seem to have gotten got by Magic Online, so that sucks. All right, well, I guess we play the game that we are dealt. That's the thing that's one of those things I hate about Magic Online. That can never happen in paper. Right? That what just transpired would never happen in paper, and now the game gets decided because we didn't, play Magic Online correctly. It's frustrating. I mean, life goes on. We're okay here still, but that's very bad for us. All right, well, let's get in with the team still. I mean, it's still a good attack. In fact, our opponent 6 is 11 is forced to block, but they would have essentially just been dead if we hadn't got hosed a little bit there by Magic Online. But hey, I guess I'm the one who clicked those boxes. I didn't think it would matter. So maybe it's my fault for not understanding that this is. I guess it's a cast ability, but it's not a cast ability of an Eldrazi. So it doesn't count as a spell or ability. I guess that makes sense in some fashion. All right, opponent's just going to trade here. This is fine. I mean, we still clear out our opponent's board. Well, maybe not. Our opponent's definitely correct. They want to keep their Scavenging Ooze around, I think. We very well might lose the game. We might not because Keswick Wolf Run might bail us out of it, but we very well could lose the game to messing that up. I get to ping my opponent at the end of the turn here. Gosh, and even then, I don't even have my, it's just so painful. I don't even have my colorless mana to draw a card with my Inbringer here because, not only it got wasted too on top of everything else. So that's, I guess, a lesson learned. You win some, you lose some. I learned about the flip cards transformed cards, CMC still being the same, and this Liliana is going to kill our Obligator. With Thing in the Ice, it's still a CMC of 2 even when transformed. So you learn something, and it works out, and sometimes you learn something and it doesn't work out, and that's what happened here. All that said, we're still in a pretty, we're by no means out of this game. This Liliana's going to take out our Obligator, and that can make the Scavenging Ooze a 4/4. However, our Endbringer is still going to be pretty good against it, and Kessig Wolf Run might just be enough to end it regardless. I'm pretty sure we're safe to just ignore this thing. With this Kessig Wolf Run in our hand, we should just be able to overrun one of these creatures to kill our opponent. Yeah, Fatal Push was a good draw there. However, you forgot to have, well, I guess we're both messing up here. Forgot to have, it's not if anything leaves the battlefield, it's if permanent you controlled has left the battlefield. So I guess I mess up, they mess up. So it's nice of them to return the favor, but yep, I understand. All right, well, life goes on. My opponent says, I guess I should read the card more carefully. Fair enough. So our opponent's out of cards. So they are dead. They are just dead. So crisis averted here. Kessig Wolf Run's a really nice inclusion in this deck. This was a really good game, too. I understand we both messed up. I don't think it changes anything regardless. What our opponent should have done is used, if we just, I guess they don't really have any good decisions, because if we just attack with the Endbringer, they can eat 2 creatures and go to 6 and go to 1, but then Endbringer just untaps and pings them. And if you block the Reshaper, then you can eat the Reshaper in response to this trying to ping you. But that's not exactly good for you either, right? Then you still died. They died to Kessig Wolf Run either way. Okay, so moving on here after we both made some mistakes. I still think I like the deck as is. Kozilek's Return is an interesting one because it deals with, it would have been more interesting on the play. On the draw, it deals with some of them, but casting nothing. It's really just a Pyroclasm, I guess. Never mind. It's a converted mana cost of 6. It can't actually, I don't know. I just took this deck from the Pro Tour. An Eldrazi creature spell with converted mana cost 7 or greater. We don't have those. Okay, whatever. I still like having an Obligator in the deck. I wonder why it's in there over at Anger of the Gods. Just need a Pyroclasm. It's easier to cast, I guess. And maybe they play around it. I'm going to keep this hand. It's slow, but it's got a Mind Stone. If our opponent discard spells our Mind Stone, and then I don't know. Our deck doesn't have a great early game. Ancient Stirrings helps quite a bit, though. Specifically to go find Eldrazi Temple, the most broken land in Modern. We didn't do that, but we do get a Reshaper here. Yeah, there's so many decks. It's almost crazy now. Basically, if you look at Modern, and I know we just saw Lantern Control win, and we saw some cool decks pop up. Martyr, Pyromancer, Blue-Red Pyromancer, but there was also a lot of Tron at the Pro Tour. And I'm not going to go into a Tron rant here, but if you think about some of the big mana things, basically there are a lot of decks in the format that resolve around colorless cards. Whether that's Eldrazi, whether that's Tron, whether that's just lands, whether that's artifacts. There's so many colorless cards running amok in Modern, and it's all because of Ancient Stirrings. And it's almost fascinating as a case study in Magic. Preordain and Ponder are banned for a reason. And it's because they give decks too much consistency, and they allow those blue combo decks or blue control decks or any of those things to just always have what they need. And if you just think about, well, that was a nice draw. I wish this was a red-green talisman, but given that we have this curve regardless, I still think I just kill this, but But anyways, back to my soapbox here for a minute. Those blue cards are banned for a reason because they just give so much consistency. And if you look at a format like Legacy, where all of those sort of things are legal, it eventually coalesces around those cards because I think it was Brian DeMars who wrote a Channel Firebar article who called them Xerox decks, where everything's just basically a copy of something else and they have just infinite redundancy. That's what those blue cards do to formats they're in. So they're banned in Modern. But you know what has filled that role? Oh no. All right, well, this is, I guess Reshaper is the one we want here. But Ancient Stirrings has filled that role. Ancient Stirrings is the best cantrip in the format, and even though it requires you to warp your deck around it entirely, you know, colorless cards is a big drawback. That's a real thing, but you know what? It just doesn't matter because whether it is artifacts with Lantern, whether it's just lands with Tron, or lands with Eldrazi Temple, or colorless things with Karn and Ulamog or Eldrazi themselves, the format at this point has essentially warped around. I'm not going to say it's warped around Ancient Stirrings, but it's warped around the most consistent cantrip in the format, and the ability to make sure your deck can do what it wants to do at any point, and that's where we're at right now. And obviously, it doesn't apply to the entire format. You know, Opt and Serum Visions exist, and there's obviously Snapcaster decks and Cryptic Command decks, and the format is overall very healthy, but you know, some of the biggest decks, Lantern just won the Pro Tour. Tron is just all over the place all the time. There's 12 different flavors of Eldrazi, including the one we're playing, and it's all because of Ancient Stirrings. I think that Lantern Control is probably a Tier 2 deck without it. Bant Eldrazi probably exists without it, but this deck we're playing might not. And we're getting wrecked here, though. I think we have to pitch to Smasher. I think we're going to die, so it's a good thing I said something intelligent sounding this game, because we're just going to die here. Well, we can play the other Reality Smasher. I'm sorry, play the other Matter Reshaper. Discard the Mind Stone. Hope that we rip land of some sort. Temple specifically. Or we can play Mind Stone. Wow, that's going to make that Tarmogoyf 5/6, huh, if we discard an artifact. Yeah, I don't want to do that. That means smash. I would say that allows us to maybe draw a land to smash on through, but that's just not going to be the case here. I mean, we can play Mind Stone and hope to draw a land and cast Reality Smasher, or we can play Reshaper and discard Mind Stone and I guess still be in the same circumstance. Well, I'm going to play the Reshaper. Let's see what our opponent has. The real question is if they just immediately plus Liliana, what we're going to do. If they just have a Tarmogoyf or something, we're in a lot of trouble. Okay. Well, you know what? The fact our opponent did this pre-combat is actually nice. It's going to give us some information we want to work with on this next turn. So, like that, Battlefield. Lightning Bolt to hand. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that makes a big difference. Imagine if our opponent had plus their Liliana first, and we didn't have that information. Instead, we have this information. Our opponent attacks with a 4/5 Tarmogoyf. We discard Mind Stone. Wow, they just don't want to activate it because they like their last card. Okay. Well, I'm going to punish you very hard for that, friend. So let's see here. If I play the Mind Stone, so I can actually do all of this. Well, this is an interesting game. I thought we were pretty dead there. Matter Reshaper is a pretty good card, though, because that kind of saved us. Now, our last card in hand will be Lightning Bolt, and if our opponent follows up with Liliana, because we have to think about what they could reasonably have that they wanted to protect. And you have to assume it's removal, but it could also be a second Liliana. And this way we don't have to worry about discarding Mind Stone, because honestly, I would rather discard Lightning Bolt than Mind Stone because we have this Reality Smasher, which is a 5/5. Well, oh, I guess it's a 5/6 anyways, huh? Okay. Whatever. I say I didn't want to discard the Mind Stone because then we couldn't trade with the Tarmogoyf, but I guess we can't trade with the Tarmogoyf anyways. The 2 Tarmogoyfs. Well, all of a sudden that's kind of a problem. All right, well, let's draw off of the Mind Stone, see what we can hit here. Something good, please. That would have been a lot better before the Mind Stone was in the graveyard. Wow, we're actually just dead. Okay. Man, that's wild. We're going to get 6-7 Tarmogoyf on out of this one. Gosh, if only we could have hit these in just a slightly different order. Instead of being land bolt, if it had been bolt land, we could have bolted 1 Tarmogoyf dead. Then drawn. I guess that wouldn't have necessarily changed much. We are very dead. Almost refreshing to die to Tarmogoyfs in this modern format, huh? Well, I guess the good news is they don't have trample, so... What a blowout having 7 toughness instead of 6, though. All right, well, we're going to get 1 draw step at this here. Sure would like top deck a Relic Progenitus. We are dead because Liliana will kill that and we will die. Well, there you go. I hope I at least waxed poetic about the modern format because that was a good game. It was a good match all around, but we did not win. Anyways, I'm Corbin Hosser. This is Mining Modern. Thank you for watching, everyone.